Greetings, fellow travelers. Ragnarok here with a sort of tutorial, beginner's guide, early game, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to play as Skarsnik because that is one of the lords I get the most questions about regarding the early game. And he is one of my absolute favorites. I really enjoy playing this little schemy bastard. I haven't come across anyone else who fancies this little fella, so I will definitely be doing this. It has been in my plans for about a year, but I never really had the time to do it. So I figured better late than never, since I still get the questions about the early game. So I will show you my take on the early game for Skarsnik. It is an option. You don't have to play like I do. I don't claim to have invented the strategy or anything of the sort. It is merely a suggestion and a help to you if you are struggling with the early game as Skarsnik. Now we're going to play on Legendary and very hard. That's the toughest difficulty you can get. The AI won't perform differently, but their units will be massively buffed, so it doesn't really matter if you play easy, normal, hard, very hard, whatever. You can still apply this to your early game. So let's jump right into it. Now I will be showing approximately 6 turns. That is the fastest way that I have come across to get the starting region. And some might say it's a bit exploitatious, but I think it's scheming and we are just using our advantages that we are dealt from the get-go as Skarsnik. He is a scheming little fella and he is shady and he is doing all the stuff that none of the other factions really like. Let's skip the introduction, we don't need to see that. I don't want to go through quests and stuff like that. You can do that yourself or see it in one of my playthroughs, or at least I will have playthroughs up at some point. Now to note, before we get going, this is vanilla with a bit of an AI advanced mod installed. It's installed manually because the moderator actually took it down, so the AI is performing a little better in this, but it shouldn't affect our gameplay here regarding your gameplay if you're playing vanilla. But I tend to play modded versions of the campaigns because they are tougher and more difficult and more lore friendly, and I basically like it more than the vanilla version. So I will provide a link in the description below if you're interested to see which mods that I am using when I'm normally playing. But for this one we're going as vanilla as we can. The only one is the AI performing a little bit better, but it shouldn't really take effect into these 6 turns, not that much at least. So let's get right into it.
Supreme ruler of 8 peaks.
Got this little fella.
I'm leaving.
And just move in here. And we can
Right
run through the
then,
spears,
let's
we'll get
do
3
it.
of those. We'll bring this little dude. Should we scar? I don't really care about that. Let's just get him ahead there. And we will be needing some archers, so we'll grab that, and we can easily justify getting the pile of shiny stuff for the extra income. So we have a couple of turns before rebellion, as you can see here, about 8 turns. That's plenty, because we will be conquering Carrick Norn and Grimhold by turn 6. Sadly, this is not modded, so I quickly have to take this up to fastest because I hate the slow mode. Just bear with me for a sec here, guys. There we go. End the turn. Now normally you could do diplomacy stuff and you could have a look at the other factions. You could start harassing them with this little fella. He's not really needed. We just bring him for the 100% guarantee that we will achieve what we're setting out to do here. And who knows, somebody out there might differ or have different opinions or other ways to do this. It's totally fine. This is just a suggestion. Merely a suggestion. We just have to wait for the AI to do their stuff. This is also after the Festag update, which is really good in my opinion. But the skill trees have changed a lot for the Lords of the Old World and some other things. But they're pretty different now. Before you could really buff up your gobos as Skarsnik. But just to go quickly through it, I would definitely recommend Route Marcher. I would get all this stuff so we can get the gobos. It applies to Night Goblins as well, so definitely make sure you get that one. You can consider riders as well for your squick herds or squick units. Now a lot of people are really dependent on the orcs, the heavy units, the black orcs, stuff like that. I normally don't care about that when I play as Skarsnik. I adopt the goblin style. I think it's more fun. I do love the other greenskins as well, but I go for orcs when you have perfectly good units, even though people think they're bad. But we'll get into that once we play a campaign again as this little fella. I would probably go for this skill here to buff the goblins, 100%. Dripping tips to slow down your enemy. And then you have a couple of other nice options up here that really buff your army. Don't go for this stuff. It's meh. It's a bit meh. But the really cool thing is you can get most of the important stuff now with the new skill tree. I like to get this as well. Even further campaign movement range. And then you have this, but this only applies to your units if their rank is 7 and above. Stand your ground, really good. Try to get that as early as possible. Even get this one, the War. This is a map-wide ability that is insane as damage to your units. So there's a couple of good, really good options in there. But I would definitely recommend getting Dripping Tips, Nastier Squigs, and better Night Sneaking, those 3. And then go down this red tree here. So we wanna gain some ground, so we'll take the underway. We're pretty confident nobody wants to intercept us at this point.
Let's get stabby.
We'll just bring this guy.
On it.
So we could keep upgrading. You can do it whatever you want if you are playing a real campaign. We're not playing a real campaign, so I don't want to do any more stuff to this. So we're just going to up the turn here. Next turn we'll attack Carrick North, which most would say no chance in hell. The first turn after we are done recruiting, I would probably recruit a Lord, 1 extra, and I would go for the Goblin War Chief because he has the same skill tree as Skarsnik with a few exceptions. So he will be buffing the the goblins as well, which is really good. You could go for a shaman, but I prefer to go for the shamans once I get the shaman hut and stuff like that. And especially the orc shaman is really good with the Foot of Gorks, but both of the shamans have really good buffs and debuffs that are really useful for the goblins. You can buff the goblins crazy much through magic and abilities. We can have a quick look here. So in my opinion, none of these traits are good. But I would prefer a Night Goblin War Boss, and a lot of times you can get him with the trait called Disciplined. I would definitely wait for that. I wouldn't really go for any of these. Zero Dance is okay. It's decent. It's a passive one and it's pretty decent. But I would definitely wait for Disciplined, which gives your units plus melee attack and leadership. Really handy for the Goblins. Goblins are one of the few factions where I actually consider doing leadership stuff because it's so low compared to other factions. But I'm not really tipping overboard or anything with it. So as you can see now, it's turn 3 and we can actually reach Carrick Norn. Looks pretty bad, like these guys should almost be able to defeat us by themselves. They have a garrison, they have a fortification, there's like no chance in hell we can get this done. But We have some scheming units.
Make 'em bleed.
And so, let's see here. Night Goblins. These are not the Fanatics. These are the Fanatics. Which means they have spinning loons. Those are the crazy little twirly gobbos with a big chain with a ball, a wrecking ball at the end. These are crazy good. They're a bit buggy in settlements. I don't know why they never fix that. They know about the bug, or that they're not working too well. But we want to put this banner here, Skarsnik's Bad Moon banner, on the regular Night Goblins. We don't want to risk the Fanatics. The Fanatics are too good in my opinion, because this banner will make the unit unbreakable, and a lot of other buffs, as you can see. But it means they'll fight to the death, and we don't want these guys to fight to the death, because we want to preserve these spinning loons once we go through the campaign. So I have no idea why our odds are going down by doing Lightning Strike, and I have been told there is a debuff to the enemy units when you Lightning Strike, even though we're not cutting off any units here. So I don't see any reason to not pop this. So let's get straight into it. As you could see on the power bar, we had about what, 5-10% chance of winning, which seems pretty accurate, I'd say. But we got some scheming units and a not too good AI, so we should be okay.
Warlord of the Fates.
So we'll put these two fellas way over here. Now these guys have Vanguard deployment, so we can deploy them closer to the walls, and they have Stalk, which means they are hidden in any terrain, as seen here, so the AI won't know they're there.
Warlord of the Fates.
Which means we want to draw all the attention to this gate as much as possible. Oops. Bring the spider, because we're going to try and break down the gate. We are trying to get up the walls, trying to harass and draw the dwarves over there. This guy is a bit annoying. He tends to get harassed a bit much during the siege. So get those guys going straight off the bat. As you can see, the AI don't know about them, but they still want to protect this gate somewhat. And they have some artillery in there and a bit of units behind that. Just take it slow and steady. Primitive siege. Big dudes are grabbing a lot of the fire, especially the spider. The spider is one of the key units for this campaign, so make sure you keep that beast alive at all times and at all costs. You could go through some units and stuff like that, but I think I'll save that for the campaign. So we'll have to look that up once I get it going. I actually don't have one at the moment. These guys are suffering way too much. I would probably recommend bringing them up here, so they don't get destroyed like that, because they're actually pretty damn useful once you get going here. I should have brought them up here so we didn't lose like half the regiment. It was pretty bad. The more of these that are alive, the better. And even though we broke down the gate and chopping away a little bit here in the front, we still don't want to rush it. Still don't want to rush it. It's too early. Gotta wait for these fellas a little bit. Normally have arrows on the units so you can see which way they're going and shit like that. And you can hit spacebar during combat, and then you can toggle and detoggle the stuff you want. Just if you're curious. So our guys are almost there. Skarsnik is taking damage. Nothing too serious. The spider is even wanting to break because it's tired.
Running.
Spears are dying. The spider is grabbed. I went a little too far in there. The spider is only good if it's not only, but it's best on top of Gobbo units. It has long legs so it can fight on top of them. So we're still drawing a lot of attention here. It looks pretty damn solid. Now these guys are fighting. This guys are way over here. They're not even worried about these guys because they don't know they're there. Speed it up a little bit because we will take heavy casualties. We don't really care about these. They can die all they want. We just rush straight in. I haven't even seen them yet. Starting to lose a lot of gobos, but it's still fine. So now they know. Actually committing these crawlers, that's pretty bad for us. So got those out of the way. It's pretty far out, let's just try noise.
We is gobos.
I want these breakable fellas to be right there.
Stabbers ready.
And the spinning looms to be right here. So we stay on the square and we block the dwarves from getting in here.
Drink the brew.
So we're starting to capture the
Because ready.
square now because we have the majority. You know what? Screw that.
Let's
These
do
guys won't
this.
break because of the banner, so they will hold, and we're just waiting for the timer here. Skarsnik is broken, that's pretty bad. I should have paid more attention over here.
Gotta kill him.
Kinda lost everything.
Maybe fast.
It's pretty bad. In vanilla, you won't lose this much. I think I'm pretty much hit by the fact that I have the AI mod installed, and I don't want to uninstall it because it's a fucking chore to do it manually. So we're suffering a little bit. Speed it up because our army is getting destroyed outside the settlement. Put these in. Just have to wait for the timer here. Slow it down.
Gobos roll. Running.
And this is why a lot of people are considering cheating. Because we waited the timer up. And then we achieved victory.
Ready.
Now, had we played this better, we would have slowed down the initial move here. We would probably have waited for the night goblins to get close. Once they hit the walls, we should be attacking over here, so that the AI will be concentrating on this part. And if you manage to keep your squig herd alive, I don't know if Maya even dead, but I've done this many times before. So if you keep the squig herd alive and maybe the spider and all that other shit, pardon my French, you can run down a lot of these units. They are pretty tanky, so don't expect to kill all of them. But the more you kill, the more experience you get, the more loot you get, or plunder, whatever you want to call it, afterwards. The more money, the more experience. And the more experience you can get on the spider and the squig herd and these two, the better. So definitely make sure you get as much as possible. And if you can find the Lord Bronk Iron Pick and get him, excuse me. He is pretty damn good. He's worth about $1,000 or something like that, and a lot of experience just per hit that your units are doing to him. So pretty easy, a little bit cheesy, but we are a scheming dude, so I think it's completely fine to do this. This is probably one of the worst I have actually done, so that's perfect for a video, of course. Normally I still have like half the regiments and all these 4. And pretty good health on these, and this is almost full regiment. This spider lost way too much health. It should lose about 1/3 once you're done. We got a little bogged down. I probably spent too much time explaining, but we're still fine enough to keep going. So because we won and it was inside a settlement, all the dudes are dead, which is awesome for us. You can choose whatever you want to do. I would suggest occupying straight up. That will give you less disobedience, and you kind of need the time to get to Grimhold and finish off these
Supreme
dwarves.
ruler of 8 peaks.
Let's have a little look-see. Since we're fighting, we'll just put this on him. And we're in a settlement, so we cannot move, but we definitely want archers, so we'll grab 3 of those. And of course, you can start tearing down stuff, start building, stuff like that. I would not recommend tier 3 buildings inside Carricknor. I would prefer that, or suggest that you only apply the higher tier buildings, so you have room enough for everything. Kind of see here, like squid cages, that's a tier 3 building. I would put that in one of the lesser settlements, but definitely make sure you fortify these. Because usually the Siflin dwarves will jump over here and start fighting you at Carrick-Ascaras at some point around turn 12, 18, 20-ish. So it's pretty good to defend that, and the distance is pretty far once you start to try and defend all of this, and that is also why it's really good to have the secondary dude to deter them from doing so. I don't know if they fixed Bastogne so they were more aggressive or something to keep Montfort, or if it's my AI mod doing that. Because normally the Siflin dwarves move down and raise this to the ground and move back. Padawan would grab it, occupy it, done deal, and then they would only have you to fight. But we also have the Barrel Legion now, so I think a lot of the old things don't really apply anymore. But it's pretty good to have a secondary lord down here to make sure this is deterring the Empire, the Siflin dwarves, or anyone else from attacking you. Plus, it's pretty damn good for you to expand this way at some point, or at least raid and demolish some of these settlements, easy pickings. Maybe even help out the Barrel Legion, destroying these dwarves or granting them the help against some of these settlements, if need be. But for now, we are done this turn, so let's pop that one. But you have some really good options of raising, sacking, plundering on these sides, and the elves won't really do much before turn 70 to 100. If you play with my mods, they will actually come up here and start fighting you, so that's way more difficult. Durtho is really nasty to fight early on, with all his treekin and stuff like that. But it's fun once you get to know the game. Okay, so they actually destroyed Bastogne, so I guess we'll see Parawan grab Montfort. It's a bit silly they never really grab it. Yeah, this is the stuff that usually happens, so maybe nothing changed there. It's kind of nice to see Bastogne fight back. Back in the early days, they usually just sat at their capital doing nothing.
Who needs killing?
It's pretty good to grab these early on. But I think we'll grab Route Marcher, just because I'm not really sure if I have enough movement without it
Skarsnik,
to get where we need to be. So we'll move right at the edge here. If this was a true campaign that I was going to play, I would have merged these units the turn before and made some new ones. It takes forever for greenskins to do this, to replenish them. Maybe we should do it anyways.
Gobbler's
It
angry.
takes too freaking long. It's better to merge these. They're pretty damn crap. They're meat shields, to say the least. And you want to replace them as soon as you get night goblins and stuff like that. Make sneaky armies. So let's see. Our front line is a little bit thin. And as the gobbos, I actually prefer to have a whopping 6 archers, unless I have doom divers and stuff like that. But here in the early game, it's pretty good to have more. Let's see, so I want 2 nasty sculptors for the armor piercing, and I think 1 spear, that's okay. We don't want to queue up any more than that, because we have to move here in Grimhold.
Not likely.
Luckily, the economy always seems to be ruined a bit once you get to this part.
You what?
So we still have to fight that guy plus the garrison. It's not the worst. If you're doing a lot of my mods, you would see the garrison is way bigger and stronger. And they'll do mediums and stuff like that. But there are descriptions for the mods that I'm using, so you can pick and crawl around if you want to try it. Definitely give a shout out to the moderators or the modders who are making these amazing mods in their spare time for free. Really appreciate that. And I think with the current selection of mods that I have, which makes the game more lore friendly, skin wise and stuff like that, it's really at a point where I think the game should have been from the release. I know there are a lot of factors playing into this, but I really enjoy the game a lot more with the mods and what the modders have made. It's really good. So definitely check it out once you're through the initial vanilla and feel secure around your faction. Want a challenge?
Or I'll take your tongue.
The standard, you can't really do much about that.
Skarsnik.
So no more recruiting. So we can see here force march, we're close to it. If we get here, we probably won't have enough movement, or we might. But just to be secure, I want to jump here. I'm pretty sure this guy is too scared to intercept us. Should you do it, better for you, because that will just make the combat even easier. I have never seen them actually intercept this. But be careful when jumping around these mountains, because these guys, the Wood Elves here, they actually have the ability to intercept you despite the huge range in between. I have gotten some pretty nasty battles because of that. So be careful when you do the underway. So it's turn 5, and we're just going to pop this. But this time you're already building away and having a secondary army, pressing your economy to the brink. But not to worry. Greenskins are really good at sacking settlements and gaining a ton of money. And the gobos are pretty damn cheap for Crooked Moon. And there are definitely some really good strategies to use when you play them. Just, if you played another faction, don't necessarily apply the play style you had with that faction to other factions. There are really big differences between dwarves and elves and humans, Norska, whatever. They really play out differently, and the same applies to Crooked Moon and Skarsnik. You have to think sneaky, you have to be scheming, you have to watch what kind of abilities they have and exploit that. I know Carignon was a big exploit, but whatever. It works, and it makes the campaign a lot easier. So we'll see. This is just my preferred. I always go for tankiness first and damage later. I really prefer to have tanky heroes and lords. That way they can tank enemy regiments while my archers pepper them.
I got me brother.
And that way they can
Sounds like a
preserve
good
the units, because it's way faster to replenish their health than a regiment's strength. So it's turn 6. Let's get straight into Grimhole. And again, the odds are pretty bad, but whatever. We're used to it. The odds will always be bad when you're Skarsnik. So we will be winning this battle, and that will be the end of the introduction to Skarsnik. We could have continued if we wanted to, but I think this is pretty good, and it will give you some idea of what to do in the early game and set you off for a good campaign run, in my opinion at least.
Gotta kill him! Get out to ready!
I think, well, this is definitely the fastest I have done the starting region. And I think the fastest I have reached Carrying 8 peaks is turn 18. But that's pretty difficult, and since I don't really fancy going there anymore, because I don't really fancy getting greenskins as Skarsnik anymore, I probably won't show it here. But it is possible. Just have some fun with it. Play around, have some fun. Test it out. See if you can get there. I tried a lot of different things with these guys. One campaign I even just left my settlement and roamed around for 90 turns before going there.
Good plan.
Skarsnik is a really cool roaming faction. But you have to be sure you're not jumping into bad circumstances. It can really swing your campaign around fast. See, I'm using a bad setup here. We should have been on the flanks with the stalker units instead of right here, smack in the middle. We'll try and send these around.
Fanatics away.
Once you get some buffs on your goblins, you definitely want it to be the attacker. This is fine, they're committing a couple of units around Skarsnik. Perfectly fine, our archers can go a little ham.
Let's scrap. Running. Where is Gobos?
Let's just try and get up into their faces.
What am I doing? Let's scrap. Moving fast.
So far so good. I still don't know about these. I have to get pretty close to be seen, and we want to swing around and get into these quarters.
Running. Running.
But we really want to envelop the enemy, and we want to be the ones charging in if we get the chance.
Very good.
We missed the charge here, obviously.
Let's scrap. Where is better
There's
than
the
that?
AI, so they will still climb up and get to us here.
Running. Nice already.
Normally I would keep the spinning loons at the front line so you could do some massive damage. It's okay, we're just playing around here.
Goblins.
We're pretty low on the squigs. The squigs alone should have been able to get the quarters.
Others ready.
See, we have really bad targets for the spinning loons. We barely get any kills with covering them in. Don't want these miners to come back.
Who can we stab?
Now we have the armor piercers at the flank and the back, so that's pretty good.
Ah! Moving fast. The Marauders ready.
In the front lines, if you can, you definitely want to fight around your spider. It adds fear and terror to the enemy units, which is pretty damn good, especially when you're not fighting dwarves.
Nasty skulkers.
Kind of want to break these, but at the same time, we should probably have been flanking instead.
Moving fast. Let's get started.
Alright, that was that.
Moving fast. Where is Gobos? Let's
Oh
scrap.
shit, they were there.
Quick,
Let's try and break the corners here, so we can free up the flanks. If you can free up your flanks, you have more units to backstab the front line and win faster.
Night goblins. Running.
Broke those.
Moving fast.
So now we can backstab here,
Right.
backstab here, and we have this ability where we can actually slow down the enemy. This is pretty damn good against dwarves who are slow as F to begin with. So you can chase them down and capture all of them. We have a big blob of dwarves over here, I can't even break. So we get the fin terror from the spider. See these long legs, they just crawls on top of your units. It does some really nasty damage. If we had ribbon tips, all our units would have poison attacks and slow down the enemy even further.
That's good. Running. Let's
So you can really chase down your enemy and get a lot of experience
scrap.
on your most important regiments
Battle one.
and a lot of money for your coffers.
Ready.
Like Like even regular battles are really worth a lot with the green skins. We'll break this body here. We're going to chase around, keeping all these from regrouping. Some are shattered. Should get there fast. There we go. So normally I would just speed up and mob up as many as possible because of the aforementioned options. The higher tier the units you're fighting, the more experience you get and more money you get. So definitely prioritize. And a Dwarf Lord, it's pretty damn tanky, so you can get a lot of experience out of that one. As you can see, the spider's taking some big nasty chunks at him. That's really good. But the squig hoppers are also amazing at gobbing up enemy units. They're really good at it. And you can definitely make them insane with the couple of buffs or perks you have in Skarsnik's skill tree. And if you defeat a lord like Leon Kerr from Bretonia, you get an extra 20 charge or something, and that's another one granting you 10, I believe, Wolfrig or something. So you can definitely get some really, really nasty squig charges. Like I like these one, the Knight Squig Hoppers. I don't like the basic ones. I really hate the Rampage ability. I like to control my units, so I prefer to skip those and go straight for these ones. That's also a Regiment of Renown that you can replace them with if you lose them. So there you have it, 6 turns, Carignan destroyed, region is yours, and I would definitely recommend upgrading these two with defensive buildings ASAP, because around turn 9 to 12 you'll start seeing the Crooked Moon mutant skids coming in here, stack after stack after stack with a few turns in between. They do fight our nemesis of Clan Angren as well, but just make sure you have defended your provinces. And I believe in vanilla they wouldn't do this. They wouldn't sit around here on 2 stacks. In vanilla they would probably already have taken Carrick Bufta and be down near Sarek Seal with their main force, and have nothing at Carrick Isa, or at least be going into Filedorf, where they waste a lot of time. Because as far as I recall, in the proper vanilla you can actually jump down and steal Carrick Isa and make some crazy hold here, but this region is a melting pot of factions that want to fight you. So make sure you don't lock yourself in. But that is it for now. I think that is good enough to get you going as Skarsnik. There's a lot of different possibilities you can do from here on out. And I might show some of my other takes on this faction at some point. But for now, that is it. And if you have a faction you want me to showcase the early game of, just post it in the comment section below. And if you're new to the game, there's currently a big sale for Warhammer games and other Total War games, DLC, all that good stuff. Going at 2Game, one of my affiliates, you can find that link below as well. It's currently the 7th of March 2019, so if you're seeing this far out in the future, pardon me for not having the what's it called? Pardon me for not having the, I want to say campaign, but that's the wrong word. The sale going anymore. But usually you can find some really sweet deals on these games through one of my affiliates, and any support just by using my links are hugely appreciated. So take care guys, and I'll see you guys for another early game tutorial beginning episode soon. Bye bye, take care.